I'd like to call the January meeting of the Planning Commission to order. We're calling Commissioner Rector for the invocation.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather together this afternoon and ask that your guiding hand be upon us as we work for the betterment of our great city of Suffolk. We also ask you to protect us during these uncertain times, and that your restorative spirit and healing powers be upon those who are stricken in any way. We ask that you help others to stay healthy, particularly our healthcare workers and other essential workers. We ask for your calming and loving arms to envelop your people as we struggle to solve the many problems that society struggles with today. We ask you to bless those whose lives are closely linked with ours, and to bless those who we love but see no longer. All this we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Wine, will you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Creekmore.
Here.
Commissioner Eberwine.
Here.
Commissioner Edwards.
Here.
Commissioner Goodman.
Here.
Commissioner Hicks.
Here.
Vice Chairman Richter.
Here.
Chairman Singleton.
Here.
And Commissioner Staler.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Wine. Are there any corrections to the minutes for the December meeting? Hearing none, they would stand as printed. We will now move to the agenda items. This afternoon, we have two public hearings. The public hearings are for 30 minutes, 10 minutes for the proponents, 15 minutes for the opponents, and 5 minutes for rebuttals. This meeting is videotaped and televised for public viewing. The first item on our agenda this afternoon is Conditional Use Permit Request CUP 2021-024, Growth Herbal Bar and Shop. Mr. Wine, will you read the caption, please?
Yes, Conditional Use Permit Request CUP 2021-024, Growth Herbal Bar and Shop, submitted by Janae Brown, Growth LLC, applicant on behalf of EWS Properties 3 LLC, property owner, in accordance with sections 31306 and 31406 of the Unified Development Ordinance, to grant a conditional use permit to establish an amusement, entertainment, recreation center indoor on property located at 201 East Washington Street, zoning map 34G18A, parcel 227. The affected area is further identified as being located in the Suffolk voting borough, zoned CBD, Central Business District zoning district, and HC, Historic Conservation Overlay District. The 2035 Comprehensive Plan designates this area as part of the Central Growth Area Mixed Use Core District. When you act on this request, you will be acting on a resolution to present a report and recommendation to City Council relating to Conditional Use Permit CUP 2021-024. Staff Planner Alexis Baker will be presenting staff's report.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Planning Commissioners. As stated, the CUP is to establish an indoor amusement, entertainment, recreation center at property located at 201 East Washington Street. The property is located within the mixed-use core use district in the Central Growth Area. The property is zoned and surrounded by the CBD, Central Business District, which has a mix of different commercial uses such as retail stores, restaurants, and office spaces. To the south are train tracks in the Health and Human Services Building Zone, FRRD, Fairgrounds Revitalization and Redevelopment Zoning District. The property features a two-story commercial structure approximately 5,200 square feet in size, which was constructed circa 1915. A notice of violation was sent on August 19th, 2021 for the use of live entertainment being conducted on the subject property without a conditional use permit. Subsequently, a request for a conditional use permit for indoor amusement, entertainment, and recreation center has since been submitted. The applicant proposes to use only the ground floor of the existing building to establish the use for public and private events, such as pop-up shops, club meetings, birthday parties, paint nights, open mic events, comedy shows, and live bands. The second floor of the building consists of apartments and is not proposed to be utilized as part of this request. The ground floor currently is utilized as a retail shop that sells organic herbal teas, bulk herbs, and rolling papers with the hours of operation of Tuesday through Saturday, 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. The proposed hours of operation for the public and private events are 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. Sunday through Monday, and 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Tuesday through Thursday, and 8 p.m. to 12 midnight Friday through Saturday after the retail shop hours of operation. However, for this conditional use permit request, the following hours of operation consistent with similar uses requiring conditional use permits will be Sunday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Friday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 12 a.m. midnight. The store space has a large room for retail, a bar that has various teas, and other retail goods for sale. The use also contains several storage rooms and is served by 2 bathrooms. The applicant has proposed sound abatement in the establishment to help offset any impacts to the adjacent properties and surrounding area, and staff has placed a condition ensuring that the sound abatement will be installed. The sound abatement will consist of insulation materials for the ceiling and walls of the ground floor. No interior or exterior building expansions are proposed as a result of this request. As such, the Departments of Public Works and Public Utilities have no concerns. There is on-street and public parking available in the immediate area that is anticipated to adequately serve the proposed use. The Department of Public Works Traffic Engineering Division have reviewed the proposed use and have no concerns. Staff has reviewed Section 31-306 of the Unified Development Ordinance for compliance with the CUP criteria. The proposed indoor amusement, entertainment, and recreation center at this site, as proposed, is consistent with other various uses that are located within the downtown core, and with the proper sound abatement shall be no more injurious to the surrounding neighborhood than would any other use permitted in the same district. Additionally, staff's proposed hours of operation align with the hours of operation that have been consistently approved for similar uses and has been recommended as a condition. Staff believes this request is proposed and with the conditions recommended by staff shall not be noxious or offensive by reason of odor, dust, smoke, or gas. Staff finds that the proposed use of an indoor amusement, entertainment, recreational center meets criteria for conditional use permits set forth in Section 31-306 of the Unified Development Ordinance, and that the use should not negatively impact the surrounding area with conditions that would serve to mitigate potential adverse impacts. Accordingly, staff recommends approval of CUP 2021-024 with the conditions as noted in staff's report and the proposed resolution. That concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have following the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Officer Jackson, is there anyone in the lobby that would like to be in for this item?
No, sir, not at this time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, officer. We will now open the public hearing. Who would like to come forward to speak in favor of this item?
Hi, how are y'all? My name is Shanae Brown. I'm the owner of Grove Herbal Bar and Shop. I just wanted to say that Suffolk has been really, really cool for us. We just started this business in April, and we have a lot of foot traffic and a lot of people come into our storefront space and just see how spacious and green that everything is. And they have offered or asked to do baby showers, corporate events, book meetings. So it's really cool to actually see that people are coming from Virginia Beach, from Hampton, even people from Richmond just to use the space and just really come to the city. So I just wanted to thank y'all for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. If we have any questions, we'll have them after the public hearing closes.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience to speak in favor of this request? Hearing none, are there anyone in opposition to this request? Brown, would you like to make any additional comments? You. We'd like to close the public hearing. Commissioners, motion, discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of questions. Alexis, maybe? Ms. Brown? Couldn't see you. In the case history, it lists that this is a result of a notice of violation. Do we know, how the, was this a citizen complaint, or do we know what created the notice of the violation?
So I would like to throw that to our zoning administrator. She can answer more questions on that violation.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, board members. We actually received a complaint from the police department regarding open mic night, and that's how it came upon our radar, and we went out and did an investigation and spoke to the property manager.
Okay, thank you very much. One other question, and this would maybe be by the owner or whomever. What is a pop-up shop?
You're aging yourself.
I'll try my best. It might actually be a zoning, but I imagine a pop-up shop is just like maybe someone that doesn't have a permanent shop that comes to sell goods there.
Okay, it's kind of like a farmer's market for something.
Yeah, sort of like that. If, say, someone wants to sell clothing, they might bring their clothing there, but they don't have a permanent shop front.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions, commissioners?
I guess maybe I have,
Go ahead.
and this might be for Ms. Baker too. The pop-up shops, are there restrictions on what could come in there to be sold? I mean, like for instance, if they were agricultural products, are they governed by anything, or you know, it would just be sort of open-ended?
I was going to address it to Ms. Cobbs, but
Yeah, and Jennifer, she can certainly chime in as well if I mess up here. In general, a pop-up shop would entail anything that could legally operate on a permanent basis, and would encompass most general retail operation, which is permitted within the CBD. So the big difference there is it would be a temporary utilization of kind of an additional retail use within the building. So we kind of threw that into the request because it didn't have a clean home, but I believe that could probably operate without a CUP.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Jefferson?
in light of the discussion and the applicant trying to solve a problem, I move for the approval of CUP 2021-024 with all conditions.
Got a motion from Commissioner Edwards,
Second.
second from Commissioner Hicks. Mr. Wine, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Creekmore,
No.
Commissioner Eberwine,
No.
Commissioner Edwards,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodman,
Yes.
Commissioner Hicks,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rector,
No.
Chairman Singleton,
Yes.
Commissioner Staler.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, the vote is approved. The motion is approved by a vote of 5-3.
Thank you, Mr. Wine. Ms. Brown, congratulations. This will go to City Council for their approval on February 16th at their meeting. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is Conditional Use Permit Request, CUP 2021-025, LifeChanging Ministry. Mr. Wine, will you read the caption, please?
Yes, sir. Conditional use permit request, CUP 2021-025, Life-Changing Ministry, submitted by Dr. Dana Cameron, Life-Changing Ministry applicant on behalf of Laser LLC, property owner, in accordance with Section 31306 and 31406 of the Unified Development Ordinance to grant a conditional use permit to establish a place of worship, small, under 6,000 square feet in the main sanctuary on property located at 600 West Washington Street, zoning map 34G 16-3A, parcel 4. The affected area is further identified as being located in the Suffolk voting borough, zoned CBD, Central Business District, Zoning District, and HC, Historic Conservation Overlay District. The 2035 Comprehensive Plan designates this area as a part of the Central Growth Area Mixed Use Core Use District, When acting on this request, you will be acting on a resolution to present a report and recommendation to City Council relating to Conditional Use Permit CUP 2021-025. Staff Planner Amy Bokikio will be presenting staff's report.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Commission. This is a request for a conditional use permit to establish a small place of worship under 6,000 square feet known as LifeChanging Ministry. The property is located in the Central Growth Area Mixed-Use Core Use District as designated by our 2035 Comprehensive Plan. The property is located at the corner of North Broad Street and West Washington Street. It is zoned CBD, Central Business District, as well as HC, Historic Conservation Overlay District. Properties to the north and south that do not front along Washington Street are zoned RM, Residential Medium. There is currently a mix of commercial, institutional, and residential uses in this area of downtown. The property features a single-story vacant commercial space on the right-hand side of the building, which is outlined in red above. The existing tenant space is approximately 1,500 square feet. The rear of the site contains 20 parking spaces, and there's nearby on-street parking. On the applicant's floor plan, they have identified that roughly 900 square feet would be utilized for the sanctuary, with 100 seats that are either movable or fixed, and approximately 600 square feet is comprised of multi-purpose rooms, 2 restrooms, a foyer, and office space. While the church currently has about 60 members, they have requested 100 seats in order to accommodate future growth as well as prevent the need to amend their CUP in the future. The ultimate occupancy of the space will be determined by the building official upon review of a change of use building permit application. The proposed service hours are Sunday school at 10 a.m., worship service at 11 a.m. on Sundays, and Wednesday evening Bible study at 7 p.m. There is currently no plan to provide a daycare in conjunction with the church. That is not part of this conditional use permit request at this time. This property is served by both public water and sewer. No changes are currently proposed to the 2 existing restrooms. The Department of Public Utilities has reviewed this application and has no objections. If the applicant plans to conduct any food preparation or cooking activities, they would need approval from the Health Department at that time. Parking requirements outlined in the Unified Development Ordinance require 1 parking space for every 4 seats for this type of use. As previously stated, the request is to allow for 100 seats. The rear of the site contains 20 parking spaces, and so that can support 80 seats in the sanctuary. And the CBD zoning district allows for on-street parking in the surrounding area to be utilized to meet off-street parking requirements. As such, there's no concern with regards to parking, and the Department of Public Works Traffic Engineering has no concerns with the church proposed at this location. No land disturbance is proposed, so the Department of Public Works Engineering has no concerns. Staff has reviewed this application for compliance with the CUP review criteria outlined in Section 31-306 of the Unified Development Ordinance and finds that this use is appropriate at this location as it is in keeping with the existing and future development patterns of this area of downtown. The scale of the proposed small place of worship is not expected to cause any adverse impacts to the neighborhood. Further, this use is proposed to occupy an existing vacant commercial space, which should support continued visitation and activity in our downtown area. Therefore, in summary, staff recommends approval of CUP 2021-25 with the conditions that are noted above, as well as in the staff report. That concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions at the close of the public hearing. Thank you very much.
I'm going to try this. It's Bokikio. Keogh. Thank you.
No worries. However you say it, I'll respond. It's all good. Thank you.
Officer Jackson, is there anyone in the foyer that's want to be a part of this discussion?
No, sir, not at this time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We will now open the public hearing. Who would like to come forward to speak in favor of this request?
Good afternoon, good afternoon. I would like to say that I would feel honored to be able to serve the citizens in Suffolk as a pastor in this area. And if you guys would grant this, it would be just amazing for our church.
Excuse me, could you speak a little louder and give us your name, please?
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm sorry, the mic was off. No wonder the confused looks. I'm sorry. I'm like, what is going on? My name is Dr. Cameron, and I'm actually new to Suffolk. I'm located here from Virginia Beach. Excuse me, I'm a little bit nervous, and I'm a pastor. It's odd. But I located here from Virginia Beach, and I would feel honored to be able to serve the citizens here in our church and just to have a place of worship. That's what we aim to do, to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. And we just wanted to do it the legal way. So we're going through the process, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Pastor Cameron. Is there anyone else to speak in favor of this request? Is there anyone that speak in opposition? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, question, comments, or motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to offer a motion that we approve CUP 2021-025 with the 4 conditions listed.
Got a motion for Commissioner Hicks?
Second.
Second for Mr. Creekmore? Whoever. Discussion of the motion?
Mr. Chairman, this isn't necessarily a discussion of the motion, but I would like to ask Dr. Cameron a quick question, if she doesn't mind coming back to the podium. Good afternoon. I'm just curious, and you know, there's no right or wrong answer. What drew you to this site? Is it something that you felt a need for in this particular community? Did people request that you perhaps come? And like I said, there's no right or wrong answer. I'm just curious.
I think it's a good question. Now, if I say the Lord, that sounds like a pastor's answer. But I would say, actually, I was praying, and many years ago, the Lord had told me that I would be planted in Suffolk. And I rebuked it as Satan. And I'm going to tell you why, because I never thought that I wanted to go to Suffolk. I'm like, it's a long ways away. What do you mean, Suffolk? And so years went by, and I ended up getting married. And me and my husband actually located a house in Suffolk. And after we located the house in Suffolk, I remembered what the Lord had told me. So he kind of ambushed me just a little bit. And so that's how I ended up in Suffolk. And once I moved to Suffolk, I knew that it was time then to actually relocate the church and be obedient to the call. So that's actually the honest answer to how I ended up here in Suffolk.
And I guess, you know, given the relative small size of this facility, you know, if you're
Yes.
successful, you're going to outgrow it in a hurry, don't you think?
I receive it, yes.
Good.
Hopefully
I
we'll be
hope
back
you
here
do.
again.
I hope you do. I hope you're very successful. So,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Pastor, while she was up? She's gone, that's okay. Any other discussions? Mr. Wine, will you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Creekmore,
Yes.
Commissioner Eberwein,
Yes.
Commissioner Edwards, Commissioner Goodman,
Yes.
Commissioner Hicks,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rector,
Yes.
Chairman Singleton,
Yes.
Commissioner Staler.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, the vote is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Thank you. That's approval. Pastor Cameron, congratulations. You have this body's approval, and it will go to council on February 16th. And you got one more hurdle to pass, and that'll be next month. Thank you. That concludes our agenda for any public hearing today. We have some old business that Mrs. Hanson is raring to go, and I'll give it to Mr. Wine first. The staff report presentation on the proposed CIP for 2023 to 2032.
Yes, sir. As you recall, you were given a A very detailed presentation last month on the proposed fiscal year 2023-2032 capital improvements plan and program. With that being said, there's action warranted today on that, and the Director of Finance, Teelan Hansen, will bring you up to speed.
Thank you, Mr. Wine. As the chairman mentioned, I'm always excited to come and give presentations, especially about the CIP, and I think by count I've got 2 or 3 more of these to do this year. So as Mr. Wine stated, I am here today to give you a much briefer, I promise I won't stand up here and take up as much time as I did in December, presentation and recap of the CIP that was presented to you in December. In anticipation of your adoption and recommendation to move forward to City Council, and the dates, I'll get into the dates of that towards the end of the presentation. So getting right into it, you've seen this slide before. This is the picture of what the first 5 years of the plan looks like. While we do program out 10 years of the plan, we really focus on the first 5 years. And so this is what the first 5 years of that plan looks like for all the funds for all the projects. I'll draw your attention to a couple of numbers, one being the one in the very bottom right hand, which is $371.4 million. That is the total of all the funds, all the projects that are being proposed for the first 5 years of this plan. You'll see at the bottom, our debt capacity per year is approximately $30 million. That is our general obligation debt capacity. And we are proposing to issue just a hair below that $30 million each year in the first 5 years. The total for the 5-year plan for just the general government fund, which is that last line in the grid there that has a total of just slightly over $262 million. That is the projects that most people associate with the CIP, that takes care of our public safety projects, our parks and rec projects, our public buildings, our transportation, and our school projects. And so that's the number that we're going to we'll get into a little bit more detail in just a few moments. I would like to remind, because if you've heard me give any of the presentations that I've done in years past, I remind everyone that the capital improvements plan is exactly that. It is a plan. This is not a budget. This is what we plan to do over the next 5 years, and then once adopted, this plan becomes part of our budget discussions later in the spring, but we really then narrow down and focus just on year 1 as it relates to what's going to happen in the budget. This next slide shows in summary the funding sources for those projects. This one and the next slide, would have been way too small if we put them all on the same page. So this is for the top 3 funds that you saw on the previous slide, and it shows our anticipated funding sources for those projects. The numbers are the same as the numbers you saw in total on the previous slide. You can see that we have a variety of funding sources that we go out to, including cash transfers as well as some debt issuances. I will make a note on the stormwater fund. We are working with our financial advisors as we go through this process to determine, as we go out through that first 5 years, the best mix of some revenue bonds versus some cash funding in order to leverage the right amount of cash versus bonds as it relates to those stormwater projects. This is the continuation of the previous slide, as I mentioned, which shows the last 3 funds that were on the first slide, and it shows a breakdown specifically of those general government funds and what the anticipated funding sources on those projects are. So you can see there that $262 million down on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. And you can see that there are a variety of funding sources that we use as it relates to those general government projects. We have a lot of grant dollars. The total if you go to the far right, the total of the 2 grant lines is about $76 million, and I'll get into the effect of that on our CIP in just a moment. But we also have cash transfers from a variety of other funds, as well as our planned GEO bond issuance. This slide, if you'll remember that $262 million number that I've said a couple of times, this is in a pie chart, shows you how those projects break down by category. So the total $262 million in our general government projects break down by category, as shown on this slide, with transportation being the largest share at 47%, or 42%, excuse me, schools at 28%, public buildings and facilities at 10%, public safety at 8%, parks and rec at 7%, and village and neighborhoods at 5% of that total. This slide shows those percentages just a little bit differently, and let me explain what I've done to this to show those percentages differently. I mentioned that we have about $76 million of planned grant funding on the projects. This pie chart takes that $76 million out of the funding sources and just shows you what we call the local funding. So this is our bond funding, this is our cash funding, this is our transfers from our other funds. And what that does is it significantly changes those top two categories. If you look at just the local funding now with that $76 million of grants stripped out, schools takes up the largest share at 41% of the CIP, with transportation now at 20%, and the other ones stay pretty close to where they were before. What that means is we use a lot of state and federal grant dollars to leverage getting a lot of very large transportation projects, which frees up some of our local funding in order to achieve projects for the schools and for some of our other needs out there in the community. I have to apologize to the commissioners on this side of the room. I tend to look at the screen over there, and, I try and remember to turn this way as well. So this last pie chart here, this is the this is the funding sources for that $262 million broken down by source, and so kind of broad categories of source. So 55% of the projects are funded with bond funding over the 5 years, 31% with some sort of grant dollars, that's that $76 million that I talked about earlier, and then 14% is through cash transfers from our general fund. So what are the next steps? See, I told you it was going to be much shorter this time. We are here today to get any input that you, the Planning Commission has for us, and we ask that you consider adopting the CIP for fiscal years 2023 through 2032. We are scheduled to go to the City Council and I will stand and give the much longer presentation to City Council on February 2nd. We'll ask them to set a public hearing to receive public comment on the CIP and set that public hearing for February 16th, which will be the first opportunity that City Council has to adopt this plan once the public hearing is concluded. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Due to the limited space that we do have in the council chambers, we do have all the department's heads available to answer questions. Some of them just might have to commute from the conference room or the foyer to get here if you have specific questions and that particular department head didn't get to have a seat in the council chambers with us today. I thank you for your time and your attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Ms. Hanson. Commissioners, questions for Ms. Hanson?
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question, and this is really, I'm sorry, I'm an accountant at heart, so I just like the way numbers work. I've been on the Planning Commission for about 6.5 years, and it just kind of hit me between the eyes that every year I've been here, our borrowing goal limit is $30 million. And I was just wondering if you could give us a real quick, brief explanation of why that wouldn't be changing with the times.
We do review that on occasion. That is based on some of the policies that City Council has set as it relates to affordability of debt as well as our payout ratios. We have a very high, one of the reasons that we are rated AAA for the city on all 3 rating agencies is that we have a very high payout ratio, which means that we pay out about 65% of the total debt by about year 12 or 13. Within somewhere between years 10 and 13. So we pay out our debt rather rapidly. So one of the reasons that number continues to stay around 30 million is we want to keep that high payout ratio as it relates to our debt. So we're not getting in over our heads. We do review it, and we are going through a process to review it with our financial advisors, and the calculation and how we get to that number as the city grows and such. That did not get accomplished before this CIP was put together, but certainly that's an ongoing process.
Okay. So,
Also, the finance director doesn't like to issue too much debt.
That is basically reviewed on an annual basis with the financial advisor, though.
I would not say it's a formal review on an annual basis, but it is an ongoing discussion with them, yes.
Okay, all right. And one other question, and this is just following up on last month's meeting. I'm a little concerned that the fire station that's set up for Holland Road is way out with the amount of development that's taking place out on Holland Road. So I'll just say that as something that I think City Council and the city manager should look at. I know that the CIP is looking into the future and taking care of the things that need attention right now and in the short term, but I just feel like that should be stepped up or moved up in the planning, because there is a lot of capital investment out in that corridor at the present time. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Are there any comments? Having no questions, no comments,
Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank everybody for the hard work the staff has done. We gave time for comments. We had a very good discussion last time. In light of all that has been said, Mr. Chairman, I move for the approval of fiscal year 2023 to 2032, the capital improvement plan with no edits.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. You cut to the chase.
Second.
Get a second.
Second.
We got a second, a motion from Commissioner Edwards and a second from Commissioner Hicks. No more discussion, no questions. Mr. Wyman, you call the roll, please.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Creekmore,
yes.
Commissioner Eberwein,
Yes.
Commissioner Edwards, Commissioner Goodman,
Yes.
Commissioner Hicks,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rector,
Yes.
Chairman Singleton,
Yes.
Commissioner Staler.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, the motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Ms. Hanson. You can take it to council on the second. Okay, let's see what we got. New business. Status report for city council meetings.
Yes, sir. Please let me get my bearings straight.
Okay, take it down.
All right, at your meeting, at the City Council's meeting, rather, of December 15th, 3 items were approved. The CUP 2021-020, the Hosier Road Scrap Metal Yard, was approved with conditions. The CUP 2021 Quality Tires and Auto Care LLC to establish an automobile repair, minor and car wash use on property located at 351 North Main Street was approved with staff recommended conditions. And ordinance text amendment OTA 2021-002 pertaining to adequate public facilities. As you may recall, we modified our student generation rates slightly, and the overall level of service requirements, in layman's terms, the square footage required per student at the elementary school, middle school, and high school levels, those were approved at City Council last month.
And they have no preliminary plats. Will you give us a review or your comments on the council request for a steering committee on the CIP?
Yes, sir. Earlier this month, at the City Council's first meeting of the month, they authorized or approved a resolution authorizing the city manager to make appointments to what will be the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee. As you all are aware at this point, we are well underway in our review and update of the current comprehensive plan. It's something that is done generally in 5-year cycles. And we have a consultant. We are gearing up for public participation soon. And a vital step in this process is the establishment of a steering committee, much like happened in 2014, 2015 as we led up to the most recent document. So with that being said, one of the participants for that steering committee specifically is a member of the Planning Commission. As such, it would be appropriate for you all to take action to appoint a member. The steering committee's first meeting is scheduled for mid-March. At this point, I do believe you have time to discuss it amongst the board to gauge interest and make a motion next month. But I did want to inform the board that we will have a participant from the Planning Commission on that steering committee, and it's an exciting process.
Thank you, Mr. Wine. As I mentioned earlier, and as Mr. Wine just mentioned, I'd like for you all to consider if you would be willing to step up without me twisting any arms.
I don't think you need to do that.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any comments?
I have one comment. I just want to publicly thank you again for allowing myself and Commissioner Goodman to serve on the CIP subcommittee, and I'm glad to see the vote is over.
I know that I've been there and done that. Any other comments from the commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to thank everybody for their expressions of concerns and calls and whatnot from having missed last month's meeting after having tested positive for the COVID. Fortunately, having had both shots but had not been boosted, I would classify my case as minor. And if I had not had a granddaughter enter my life on the 27th of November, I did not even feel bad enough to get tested, but we felt like we needed to rule that out for her sake. So once again, I want to thank everybody for their calls, their thoughts, their prayers. And I didn't think I could miss you guys, but I actually did. So I'm glad to be back and glad to be back and part of the process.
Thank you, Commissioner. Glad to see you back. We missed you, okay? Any other comments? If no other comments, we stand adjourned.